Hello, it's James here. Now, last week we talked about the 10 things that I hate about my C8. This week, let's flip that around and maybe add a few. Let's start with the obvious one. It's freaking fast and quick. Zero to 60 in about 3 seconds. I mean, that's amazing. Not to mention top speed, allegedly, of 194 miles an hour. It'll get you down the freeway. Although these numbers are great, you really can't use them too much. What you can use, though, is that power. In order to get those numbers, that means there has to be good gearing and a lot of power in the engine. That means, on a practical side, when you are on the freeway and need to pass a truck or something, it's not a problem. You always have enough power.
Second is fuel economy. With all this power and performance, you would think this thing would just guzzle fuel, but it's actually really efficient. It's rated 19 city, 27 highway, which isn't bad at all. But when you really get that thing out on the road, it gets so much better. I have never had that low on any of my trips. I've averaged around 24, but that's with mostly city driving. And on the freeways, long stints, I'm getting up to 34 miles per gallon. Even on that 3,000 mile trip that I took recently, I averaged 29 miles per gallon, which is 2 higher than what this thing should be getting on the freeway. It really is a pretty practical car because of that alone. There are 2 trunks on this thing, a trunk and a frunk, adding up to 12.6 cubic feet of storage. And GM says you can fit 2 golf sets in the back, although I think they're going to be pretty small ones. Not only that, but I had enough room to put all of my gear for coming here to Fort Lee for a 4-month training cycle into this car. Now, yes, I also had to use the passenger seat for some of this stuff, but turns out I brought way more than that was needed because the packing list was pretty wonky. But either way, that's a tremendous amount to fit in here. If you're looking to take a weekend trip, you and your significant other, you will have no problem fitting your luggage. And while you're on that trip, you'll get to our next point: comfort. There is a tremendous amount of technology in this car. Now, I have the 2LT package. The 3LT, though, gets you the same stuff, just with a nicer interior and more leather. The 1LT, you don't have most of these toys, so I really think it's a great idea to just upgrade to that 2LT. You have comfortable standard seats, you have all kinds of technology for your phone, wireless charging, just a tremendous amount in this thing that makes it easy to drive. Which actually is the next point. This thing is crazy easy to drive. Have you ever driven an exotic car? If you go and drive old sports cars, but especially old supercars, like the older Lamborghini Murcielagos or an older Ferrari Testarossa, they're kind of a lot of work. And this car fixes basically every one of those problems. This isn't really a sports car or a supercar unless you want it to be. Most of the time, it's a GT car. Now, some people give GT cars a lot of flack because, well, they're not as fast, they're not as pure or whatever, and I understand that. But most of the time, that's what we want. Something comfortable and usable and fast. And the 2020 Corvette C8 does that perfectly. Now, yes, there is no manual transmission, which some people are sad about, but what it does have is a flappy paddle gearbox that shifts faster than you can. This thing is awesome. It's a foolproof manual or an automatic. So if someone doesn't know how to drive a stick, they can still enjoy this car. You're never going to blow up the transmission or the engine by over revving it and missing a gear shift. It's just not possible. It will deny the shift if it's going to break stuff. On top of that, there is a weather mode. So you've got different performance modes and track settings, and you can adjust and make your own stuff. But if you're in bad weather, like snow or rain, just bring it over to weather, and oh my goodness, it will not spin. You have 500 horsepower in a mid-engine, low supercar, and it's like driving a Hyundai. I mean, it's just so easy to drive. This thing is so easy to drive that I took it on a 3,000-mile road trip from Bozeman, Montana to Fort Lee, Virginia, taking the scenic route. And like any car, you get a little bit tired of being in it for that long, but it was still comfortable. And it's quiet. It's actually quieter than the previous C7 Corvette inside by several decibels, which means you're not going to have drone on your ears. You're not going to show up feeling exhausted. You can enjoy the car, and if you want a little bit of extra sound, turn over to that sport mode and open up the butterflies in the exhaust. Now, while you're on such a road trip, you're gonna put a lot of miles on the car. And the more miles you put on a vehicle, the more maintenance you have to do. Luckily, it's a Chevy, so it's not that bad. Now, yeah, this may not be, your typical Chevy Cobalt or something where you just add, 4 quarts of oil and a cheap filter and you're good to go, but it's not that bad. If you bring it to a GM Chevy dealership, it's about $100 to do a full oil and filter change. And you only need to do that every 7,500 miles. So it's really quite affordable. Not only that, but your first oil change is free with a new car. So you're not even feeling maintenance costs at all until about 15,000 miles in. Also, if you want to do your own maintenance, too easy. You can get right to all the components that you need to. There's cutaways under the chassis. There's easy to reach fill points and dipsticks in the engine bay. It's just a very easy car to do your basic maintenance on. Speaking of cheap, reliable, and easy maintenance, why don't we talk about the value for money of the car itself? The thing is $60,000. Now, that's not chump change. That's a significant amount of money. But when you compare it to other cars that it should be competing against, but usually will beat, it's exceptional value for money. Let's talk about a base Porsche 911. That's $97,400. For a car that is less powerful, more expensive to maintain, gets worse fuel economy, and has kind of bland looks. I mean, every Porsche pretty much looks the same. Nothing looks quite like the new 2020 C8 Corvette. And that $97,400 is base. If you've ever looked at a base Porsche, you really don't get a whole lot. You're going to have to spend another $10,000 to $50,000 to get that thing moving and feeling like a C8 Corvette for about half the cost. And that's the next thing I love. Amazing looks. Everywhere I go, this thing gets attention. I'm talking about kinda dangerous levels of attention. It's been mistaken for a Ferrari, a McLaren, a Lamborghini. Many people do know what it is, though, because car guys have been waiting for this car for a long time. Every single time I fuel up, it's another conversation. There's people taking videos, hanging out of the sides of cars on the freeway. I mean, really, kind of weird, crazy stuff going on. But that's how good this car looks. And part of that good looks, in my opinion, is that visible engine. Now, this is not available on the upcoming convertible, and that makes me kind of sad, but that's the reason why I didn't wait for a convertible either. I like seeing that engine. And that's a pretty good segue into our next point. Even if you don't get a convertible, it's still a convertible. You see, it's a targa top. You can take that top off of the car and it pops right into the trunk. It stores itself. You don't have to leave it at home. You don't have to put it behind the seats. It snaps right in there. And there's just as much rigidity with the top on or off. It doesn't matter if it's a convertible or not. This chassis is amazing. That means even if you get the base Corvette, you're still getting open air thrills and the scenery of the sky above you. And those open air thrills will be appreciated by the next thing that I love about the 2020 C8 Corvette, and that is its world-class interior. The 2LT or the 3LT, heck, even the 1LT, is an amazing place to be. Each time you upgrade, you get more toys or more leather. But no matter what, GM did an amazing job on this vehicle. It really punches well above its weight. Everything is easy use, it's very driver-centric. It has plenty of room, but it's not to the point where you feel like you're in a boat. It's a relatively large car for being a little sports car, but it's still a small car, so it's super easy and nimble and easy to get to everything in the cockpit. On top of that, there's great color options. And for 2021, there's going to be even more. So if you get the 3LT package on your 2021 Chevy Corvette, you are going to be able to choose from a plethora of different leather options and patterns and seat belts and everything, to where it's going to be your car customized the way that you want it. Now, while you're enjoying that interior, you're going to be driving. And that's really what this car is all about. It only has 2 seats for a reason. It's not designed to be the most practical of things, despite that storage. No, what it's designed to do is be a driver's car. Now, we already talked about the performance, the acceleration, and the top speed, but what about handling? Many people don't think about those numbers, but that's really where most of the thrill comes from. This thing will do 70 to 0 in 149 feet. And it will do over 1 G on a skid pad. That means you are actually going to feel more gravity going sideways than you do right now going down. That is very agile for a quote-unquote big American car. And with all that power behind it, you can really use that handling. Not to mention the limited slip differential and that amazing gearbox with its dual clutch transmissions, meaning that you never have torque loss. You're always going to be able to shift up or down even in the middle of a corner without losing that rear end. The handling on this thing is amazing, and it even does good at autocross, which is quite a feat for this much vehicle on that small of a track. Now, when you do get to your destination, you are going to have to park, and that's when you're going to get to the the last thing on my list, but honestly, one of my favorite. This car is actually easy to park. Now, this seems silly. If you're used to driving regular cars, they're not too bad, right? I mean, sure, maybe you have to back into a space or parallel park. Some cars even do that for you now. Now, the new Corvette does not self-park, but it really doesn't need to. It easily fits in all parking spaces, and it's surrounded by technology that will help you. It has proximity warnings in the back, and not just little beepers, but it actually shows you how far away you are. It has cameras in the front, a camera in the back, and another camera in the back for your mirror. Now, this mirror is not available on the 1LT, but on the 2 and 3 LTs, you actually have a backup camera mirror. So your visibility at all times is extraordinary, even though you have those big pillars on each side of you. This means you aren't going to be stressing on whether or not you're going to hit that car next to you or back up into a wall or park your bumper right over that curb and scratch up your beautiful 2020 C8 Corvette. No, you are going to be able to park stress-free, turn off your car, get out, walk away, have the mirrors fold in behind you as you plan for your next trip.
Anyways, those are my top 10 plus reasons why I love my C8. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this car? What are your favorite things about your car or the new Corvette C8 or really whatever? Also, if you have any questions for me about the car or about anything else, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below, because I am going to be doing a frequently asked questions or just kind of a Q&A video here very soon. Well, that's about all that I have for you today, my friends. So until next time, stay safe, drive safe, and be happy. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to go to dadbod.marketing for all of your free business and marketing advice. Please like, share, and subscribe if you got something out of this video. And don't forget to check out our other videos right here.